Gavin, I'm fascinated by the story of Vice. I don't know it, but Vice I think of as a left, kind of like a liberal news source. Am I on target with that currently?
Who's watching right now?
The liberal dude. Yeah. So Vice
guy doesn't know anything.
Yeah. I'm asking.
In the
guy who hasn't heard of anything.
Jesus fuck, Gavin. Answer the question, you shit fuck.
What was the question?
Vice? When you started that and then you left it, can you tell the story of how that evolved? I'm curious. I think it might be a good story.
What, are we going to go put on a pot of coffee and spend the next 6 hours? It's I don't know how to make this story short.
Oh, okay.
Sarush was a junkie. He had a revelation where Allah told him he's going to stop doing heroin and start something new. He got that in rehab about a week after this corrupt group of Haitian hustlers called Image Interculturelle, Intercultural Images, said, hey, we're starting a cultural newspaper like Village Voice that we hand out to people. And it's just going to have like all the multicultural events at the time. So you say there's a Polish parade on Thursday, sort of like a calendar for multiculturalism. And he goes, okay, I'll do that. And you have to sell ads. And it's the money we got for this is a make work program for people on welfare. So you have to go on welfare. So he said, no problem. So he got on welfare. Then they got him that program to get him off welfare. And he hadn't put out an issue yet. And he goes, I need a staff. So I was a cartoonist at the time. And he said to me, do you want to do cartoons for this new newspaper? We knew some of the same people. And I go, sure, yeah, I'll do a comic strip. And he goes, actually, can you just be the editor? Like, wait, I don't know what I'm doing here. And I said, okay. And then he goes, you have to be on welfare. How do I? And I go, okay. So I went to the welfare office cross-eyed, which if you ever want to get on welfare, you have to go in cross-eyed. And you're like, hi, I'm having some trouble figuring my life out, and I would need some welfare to have in my body. Like, okay. The trick to getting on welfare is you fill out the forms with your left hand, so all the writing is fucked up. So I did all that. I got on like that. I think the woman gave me $100 too. She was like, hold on a second.
You look like you could use a hot meal.
You're obviously incompetent. And I'm like, I'm hustling you, bitch. And then, so we got off welfare with the program. And then we decided we're not doing multiculturalism. That's gay and boring. We'll just make it like a skate punk fanzine thing and write about bands we like and, you know, dumb shit and make up stuff. I had no experience in journalism. So I would just write things like my first CD review was, this album's pretty good. Like the first song is like, doo, 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 and I'm writing. I interviewed a potato. I interviewed God. And then they wouldn't let us expand. So we want to get more ads. We want to do stuff with this. And they didn't care that we didn't do the multicultural thing because people seemed to like it. So they never bothered us. But we go, we want to mail out copies to advertisers. And they go, no. So I hired my childhood friend, Shane Smith. He came on board and he's like, dude, this is a scam. You're the golden goose for them. And they're not investing in the company because they don't want to expand. And he goes, you know what we should do? We should say, either give us the money to send out copies so we can get real ads. We were called the Voice of Montreal, by the way, back then. Or we quit. And then I was telling my buddy Marcus, who I started this tree planting company with. No, I was his employee. He started the company, but we worked together. I was a foreman with him. Tree planting and is big with students in Northern Ontario. And I told him about the ultimatum, and he goes, "Why give them an ultimatum? Just leave, change the name." And then I told my dad that idea, and he goes, "I've got it. You change the name to Voce. It's Italian for voice." And I'm like, that's the gayest idea. I'll just drop the O and call it Vice. So we didn't give them an ultimatum. We said we're leaving. We changed the name so they couldn't sue us. We were only like 24 at the time, though. So the Haitian guy was like, you got to understand, Haitians in Quebec are like the blacks there, and they're all nerds and rich people because you can get out of Haiti and make it to Canada. You're rich. So he was this ponce in a blazer and a scarf, and he goes, "My wife is a lawyer. I will sue you." So we said, okay, we'll pay you 35 grand over the course of, I think, 2 years. And that to us was like the biggest number imaginable. And we could have just said fuck off, but we were little kids and he scared us with the lawyer talk. So we paid them off. Although a woman recently sued me for $1 billion, claiming that she worked there at Voice of Montreal and it was her idea. And she wants $1 billion from me, Shane, and Sarush. Cost me 40 grand in lawyer fees to tell her to fuck off, by the way.
Jesus Christ.
Been there.
Pain in the ass.
So we went solo, and then we were solo for like 95 to 99. I told you this was a big question. And there was this eccentric billionaire who discovered this CGI company called Animal Logic, I think. And he met them in Australia, and he goes, you guys are going places. I'm investing. And then they ended up doing Jurassic Park. So he made a bunch of money. And he was famous in Montreal. Richard Sawinski was his name. And so we would get interviewed, and everyone was so incompetent in interviews that we just make up shit. Like Shane and I said we're gay lovers, and we said we were Green Berets, and we would just whatever popped into our heads, we would tell them. Like we started out, actually, Advice was a jam company. And then we realized food has so many restrictions. We had a flyer that we released with the jam when we sold it every year, and the flyer became popular. All lies every day. So at one point,
you're crossing your eyes just in case the welfare department,
just in case the welfare people are looking.
So Richard Sawinski says, no, Shane right there said, yeah, Richard Sawinski, he's buying us, and we're moving to New York. No, he's buying us. Sorry. And Richard Sawinski's son, he goes, I appreciate the hubris. He had like a nerdy voice. And he goes, tell you what, if you could put together a 1-page business plan, I will invest. So we stayed up all night. We put together a business plan. We said we're worth $1 million, I think. No, 4 million. So he paid us $1 million, 3 each. And he said, look, if you're big in Montreal, you're big in Canada. You're big in New York. You're big in the world. Let's move to New York. And we were like, yep. So in 98, we moved down to New York, and it was going great then. And then we realized he's kind of selling a pyramid scheme, and he doesn't have any money anymore. So Con Ed started coming by and like shutting shit off. And we realized we were flat broke by like 2001. And so we had a client there, 555 Soul. They kind of did rave wear. And we moved into their warehouse. Like we were buy boxes and boxes of coats and hats and shit. And we rebuilt the company from scratch. And that was like the Vice, And then we started getting into video around, 03, 04. And Shane was sick of being the sales guy. Salesmen are not considered cool in our generation, Gen X. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to take over content, and things started getting more and more frictiony with me and Shane. Sarush was never really didn't have the balls to get involved in any conflict. So Shane and I just eventually became incompatible. I was out in 08, and then Shane became like Anderson Cooper news guy, which I always thought was gay. I'm not into fucking international news. And then he ran it for a while, and I think he got paranoid about various controversies he saw looming over his head. And so he hired this incompetent cunt named Nancy DeBach from A&E, and she just ran it into the ground. They became they were initially pretty woke after I left, but because that was only because it pays the bills. Mm-hmm. So Shane loved the international news guy, and then the woke thing took over, and then Nancy, some chick, took over the company, and she had no idea what she's doing. She's a stupid bitch, and they went bankrupt.
Oh, is Vice bankrupt?
Story.
Is Vice done? Is Vice bankrupt now? I'm confused. I got a little lost at the end.
Yeah, they're toast. They have no money.
Oh,
is that like shitty to feel now? Like seeing kind of what was your baby, or it's so far from it that now you don't care?
Yeah, like I left in 08, so I feel nothing. But I was mad. I really wanted them to fail right after. And people always say to me, they're like, "Hey, they got you out, and then they went broke." And I'm like, "Yeah, I like that story because it makes me feel good, but." It's false. They made hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, there was a peak in between there.
Years.
Yeah.
After me. So if they went bankrupt, like James O'Keefe, it has the ideal scenario. He gets ousted and they go bankrupt within like a year. That's what you're going for. But no, they did very well for a long ass fucking time without me.
Damn. That's interesting.
Yeah, when I heard you founded Vice, because the Vice that I know is kind of woke, right? So I was a little surprised that you founded it, and I was like, I want to hear how that went. That's all.
No, it was very unwoke. And we did have liberal shit in there, but we had right-wing shit. And that's kind of the way the whole scene was back in the 90s and early aughts and within punk too. Like, yes, there was definitely a leftist angle because it was all young people, but you'd have a guy like Tom Hazelmeyer, the head of Amphetamine Reptile Records. He named his daughter Reagan. Now, if you named your daughter Trump today, like you'd be excommunicated from the hipster crowd. But back then it was like, oh, that's Tom and his crazy right-wing stuff. Like I used to wear a shirt in 2000. It had an American flag and it just said "Speak English." And people were like, oh, that's Gavin and his fucking immigration stuff and whatever. Like it was all, we accepted the different sides. But it was, around Trump when Scott Adams has a great tweet about this that sort of solves it all, where the myths were shattered and the radical left was exposed. And all of a sudden, you couldn't have any nuance. As Jim Norton says, you're either 100% with us or 100% against us. And with Trump, they said, all right, that's it. We quit. It's a civil war.
Yeah, Trump really did amplify it a huge amount, or at least the response to him did. You could argue which way, but
I think Obama started the Civil War by saying America's just as racist now as it was in the 50s and 40s. And then what Trump did is he said, all right, party's over. No, we're not doing this anymore. America's not racist. You suck. You're incompetent. We're going back to meritocracy. We're going back to the 80s. I don't like what Obama's done to this country. And that's when the nerds went insane because they'd been in control for so long. And meritocracy is their worst nightmare because, they took speech pathology in college and the history of slavery. And if none of that is relevant, then their whole religion is irrelevant. So that's what Trump derangement syndrome is.
Yeah.
Gavin and I didn't get along.
Oh, it seemed like a little bit of barbs back and forth. But overall, I think you guys bonded over motorcycles at the end.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just Mr. Positive PR spin right now.
I thought the Vice question was a good one, and I thought it led to an interesting segment on the show. He was just taking shots at over anything.
So what I was going to say after the show was you bore the brunt of it on that question in particular. However, doing so got us a really interesting story that I appreciated him telling. So kudos there to you, I guess, for asking the questions, even if he didn't like the question or thought it was silly. I think
I don't know why he would be offended by it.
I don't think he was. He's just on a little.
I think he was just teasing. But it was funny because Woody asked about Vice. And after he did, he's like, what? You got fucking 6 hours? And I looked down at my notepad and it's like, be sure to ask about Vice. And I'm like, yeah, Woody, what the fuck? Where you go 6 hours? Yeah, no, I think that was good. I never understood the evolution of Vice or when he left, or because I remembered back in like the mid 2000s, it was like a cool media source where they would do stuff like, we sent a reporter to live for 20 days in Sentinelese Island. Or
did they do the North Korea undercover thing with Lisa Ling or something?
I'm now remembering that's the thing I'm thinking of. Yeah.
So we've talked about this before, but it is fascinating if you've never seen it. I think her name is Lisa Ling. She's this very attractive Asian lady who's probably 50 but looks 30. And they went undercover along with an optometrist or an eye surgeon to North Korea to do all these cataract surgeries for these poor North Koreans. And they had like a 4 to 5 day pass, some brief amount of time. And so the doctor is doing dozens of surgeries a day or something. He does like 100 people. He gives them their vision back in at least one and sometimes both eyes in the course of a week. And it's almost they gather in what looks like a church, but I don't know if they're allowed religion there. And and everybody's getting their bandages off at the same time. A whole congregation of people is literally being given their sight back by the man standing in the front, and they bypass him to thank the great leader's portrait. And the old lady exclaims while she cries on her knees, "I will work twice as hard in the salt mines." And this is and I appreciate, and I was like, this is a legit view of what's going on. There's no spin. Lisa, they're secretly recording this at risk of, being taken by the North
thrown
Koreans.
in jail. Yeah.
And you know, like that one American they gave back had been tortured so severely he was brain dead, right? And he died not long after we got him back. I don't know what they do to you over there, but it's not friendly.
They fuck
It's
your
awful.
ass up. Yeah.
They fuck your ass up. So that documentary was fascinating to see like what a normal street looked like. It's also very clean, like their cities. But it reminds me of movies when the person's having a dream and all the people in a city have disappeared. And it's very ominous. It's almost like where are all of the people? Why are there not commuters of some kind? Or why are there not like, in America and every other city I've ever seen, cities are congested with traffic and everybody's trying to get somewhere.
Did you happen to see that footage of the bicyclist riding in North Korea recently on Reddit?
No.
It backs up
me.
your story. Well, story, it sounds like a lie, but it backs up what you're saying.
I did see it.
Oh, yeah. So the guy rides his bike, and man, there are barely any cars in a city with an infrastructure to handle a lot of cars.
Millions. Yeah, a city that looks like a major city of millions. But there's no foot traffic either, seemingly. There's no. It's like, where are the people centers? Where's the hustle and bustle of North Korea?
They did that shit that China does, where they like build an entire city before there's the demand for that city, and then it's just, old West ghost town, nobody there.
Well,
that would explain.
But these undercover videos, though, like I never quite understand it, and sometimes I have this little sci-fi dystopian Black Mirror moment where I'm like, I've never been to North Korea. Do we even know if it's real? Like maybe they just drew it on the map and it doesn't exist. Yeah, like I've never been. Maybe it's all. Of course, I also have that simulation theory that I melt into every now and then, where I wonder if you guys are real.